Doing tonight?
Thank you, Nada, for hosting me. I'm quite well. I trust all the people who've managed to save some time to engage in this conversation are well too.
And let's dive into our questions. My first question would be, what is going on with Kampala City? We've experienced floods, and this becomes like a habit in rainy season. What is happening with Kampala? What is Kampala's City Council Authority doing? What is NEMA doing to save us from going away on Noah's Ark?
I think it's going to take dedicated effort and focus and discipline and resources to be able to turn around this situation because a significant number of swamps that normally drain into Lake Victoria are blocked. The planning, which was done, I suppose, in the 50s, 60s, was supposed to cater for a city of 500,000 people. It has kept on expanding. We are now about 4 million daytime who occupy Kampala. There are spiraling developments all over the place, unplanned, and there's absolutely no way we can avoid floods. And Kampala being a hilly area, hilly and valleys, there must be focus and discipline and resources dedicated to that. I believe if there is a serious government in a span of about 5-10 years, they can do all the things that are necessary for Kampala to be flood free, even when the heaviest of rains pour. But looking at how these people who run government now, how they are, I highly doubt whether they have got the discipline to be able to do that. They only have knee-jerk reactions. Anytime it rains and then there are floods, then they scream and then they make statements. And when it ceases raining, they just go back to sleep and sleep as they do.
There was an involvement of UPDF Civil Construction Brigade at some point to repair the roads. Do you, by any chance, know what's going on there now?
I have no understanding, I have no clue. But normally, armies are disciplined forces. If they are well led, if those who are at the top of the army and governments are disciplined and they give them equipment, yeah, an army can do quite a lot of transformational work in terms of infrastructure. But the problem we have now is, of course, even those who are in those construction brigades, they are human beings. If they look at right from cabinet down to those who are in positions of power and responsibility, those who access resources, if they see them, loosening their belts and engaging in, stealing money, basically, because that's what's happening all over. There is an extent to which even military discipline can restrain individuals to keep on doing things the right way, doing things knowing that it is in the best interest of the country. When they see their seniors busy stealing, it's a very, very tough situation in which the disciplined officers and men in the forces find themselves. I know there are still some who are dedicated to doing things in a manner that can improve the living conditions of the people and to put this country on the track of sustainable economic growth and development. They are there, but there is no way they can withstand the pressures that they have got to go through. I mean, if you know that the senior commander has stolen, you are there, and you hardly can make ends meet. What do? It's very, very tough for them. So my hope is that as change comes, which is inevitable, that the next regime is going to be composed of men and women who are dedicated to running this country in managing the resources of this country in a transparent way, And there are many Ugandans who will put in effort to resolve most of these challenges that there are. Because on one side, it is resources. This country is well endowed, so resources is not the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is management. That's what it has always been. And until that is resolved, we will keep on seeing the situation as we see it happening now.
Right. Let's hang around with the UPDF. There were accusations that UPDF used chemical weapons in airstrikes on civilian targets in Nasir in South Sudan. I could read today quite a lot of um, denials or communication from various officers denying the use of ethyl acetate, which is a highly flammable industrial chemical allegedly deployed in a densely populated area of Nasir. Nasir is a district in South Sudan. Um, what do you think happened over there? And what could be the repercussions in case that ethyl acetate indeed was used?
It's against international law in terms of using chemical warfare in wars. It would have been in the best interest of the army when something like that happens, because in the current environment where there's social media and there are all manner of information, some true, some false, an army would find it very in its best interest when a rumor like that or information like that emerges. What they would have done, in my own estimation, would have been at the cost of the Ministry of Defense. Get either UN or a regional body or a credible laboratory where the outcomes of which, once they conduct an investigation, would be believed by all sides, and ensure that they access that area. They pick samples of whatever is alleged, the chemical they alleged to have been used, and they test it. Once there's a credible lab that does that, and simply after verification find that no such chemical was done, then the army would be in the clear. I simply don't understand why they don't do that, because it would be in the best interest of the army to protect its image. But they seem not to do that. So it remains a question of who is denying, who is alleging, and for those who have no way of verification, it becomes very, very difficult. Of course, what creates a bigger problem is that the regime itself has lost credibility. So even when they have not done anything, when it is alleged that they have done anything, the tendency is for people to believe. That's what happens. Normally, when regimes lose credibility, even individuals, the individuals who lose credibility because of doing wrong things. Now, in the event that they have not done anything wrong, even when it's alleged that they have, people tend to think that they must have done. That's another problem that the country carries right now, and more so the government. But unfortunately, the government seems no longer to care about credibility. I don't think it's one of the things that they care about anymore.
Well, that kind of leads me straight into my next question. There was a tweet by General Muhoozi Kainerugaba that said something along the lines of Uganda attacking Bunia in eastern Congo unless their forces surrender within 24 hours. This was posted a couple of days ago, actually, on Saturday. His account has gone dormant. I don't know if it came back. But we talked about this before as well. Um, how do we deal with such um, kind of communication as a country? What do we do vis-a-vis our neighbors? And also, maybe you can shed some more light. What is the current situation in Congo? Who's actually fighting whom, and what is it all about?
I basically don't know much about what's happening in Congo. Unfortunately, we have not had journalists, from different media houses flown in there so that they could go and give us feedback. The only things we see are on social media. And a number of times you don't know what is authentic, what's true, or what is false. And on the issue of tweets, the buck stops at General Museveni's doorstep because he's the commander-in-chief. He's the one who is supposed to call the CDF to order. He seems not to be bothered by it. Either he is not bothered, or he is bothered and he simply doesn't know how to handle it. I simply don't know. And unfortunately, one of these days it is going to cause a diplomatic crisis. I have seen at some point the tweets about Khartoum. The Khartoum regime responded. There's also been another one about Congo, where I think he was threatening to arrest a general of the Congolese army. I have seen some weak response from the Congolese government. I think the countries around themselves also have their own problems because if you have got the chief of defense forces of a neighboring country and he's saber rattling, you have to be firm and call the ambassador to order in the country and read them the right act. But they seem not to do that, so General Museveni doesn't act. The countries around also seem to be playing, I don't know, safe or whatever. We'll wait and see how this whole thing unfolds. One hopes it doesn't end up causing a crisis bigger than just the reckless use of words. This is absolutely unbecoming and being a banana republic, because that's what it signifies. We'll wait and see if it is General Museveni who is manipulating General Muhoozi or General Muhoozi is manipulating General Museveni. We'll also get to know that at some point in time. But there's no way you can have that kind of thing in a country. and everybody seems not to be able to do anything. Because the only one person who can act is the commander-in-chief. He's chosen not to do anything. So we will wait.
Here comes my honest question. Do you think General Museveni has any friends to advise him in these situations?
Social friends, what?
Genuine friends who can advise him how to go through these situations.
Well, General Museveni himself has said it through his own mouth that he has no friends. I think even when you look at the way he operates according to interest. If he relates to you according to common interest, you'll work and move in tandem. If your interests no longer tally, you'll fall apart. That's how he operates.
So speaking of interests, I want to take us back to the time of the iron sheets. We had some 26 ministers and 31 legislators named in connection with the case of iron sheets for Karamoja being found in the wrong places. There were sanctions imposed by Uganda's anti-corruption court targeting the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Netomong, as well as Amos Lugolobi, State Minister for Finance in charge of planning. Then, I have gone, I was muted. So the question is around the Iron Sheets saga. There were 26 ministers and 31 legislators named in connection with this case of iron sheets destined to Karamoja, ending up in different places. We somehow forgot about that, did we? And why do we keep forgetting such situations? There is nothing much in the media going on. Um, there is nothing much in terms of punishment, repercussions, except some foreign travel sanctions and so on. Why do we forget these issues?
Once the abnormal is normalized, that tends to be the case. Because once the abnormal is normalized, then you find that acts of that nature no longer create outrage on a sustained basis. So if when people react to a situation and within a short period they'll forget about that. And that's what Genome 7 worked on first and foremost, to create a general environment in which people no longer see the abnormal as abnormal. I mean, there are many things happening in this country which are absolutely abnormal. But because he has kept on working on the psychology of the population and starting mostly with the leadership at the top, because leaders are the ones who lead people. But when they break down, when their their sense of self-worth, their sense of integrity is broken, and they degenerate to a point where the human being, when the human being is broken to a point where they are living at the lowest level, of their being, which is just survival, they'll take in anything. And that's where we are. That's why the issue of leadership becomes very, very critical. Because again, it is leaders who have turned around this to fight, even as this regime still exists, but also to fight when the regime exists. Because this is now a culture, survival. People will do anything simply to survive. Get money or get a job or do that. That's where, unfortunately, the country is. And that's the biggest challenge that we face as a people. Everything else that is going wrong is rooted in that psyche, the national psyche that there is now. So there are short attention spans. Things will happen. People know they are wrong. They react, but for a very short period of time, because they are used. They know this is now the tendency that something else is going to happen, and that's what happens. Next week, another news cycle comes in, something outrageous happens, and then they forget what happened the week before. That's where we are at. So the levels of organization have got to be deepened and work day and night to ensure that we get the leaders who keep standing and keep talking and keep on explaining and building a number of them, a critical number of them, that can take charge of this situation and reverse it. No matter when we say that, people think that when we talk about critical mass, they think we're talking about millions of people. No. People who change countries are never in hundreds of thousands, not even in thousands, just a couple of hundred men and women of integrity who stand firm, focused, disciplined, and are also resilient. They are the ones who change nations. So that's what we have to keep working on.
So, do you maybe see how the young people are missing from the political discourse because they are terribly silent? Students and our youth are terribly silent in these days.
There are many who are frustrated because they lack role models. There are many who are getting desperate because when they look around, they think that the situation is impossible. However, the good thing is that there are also many who are resilient, those who stand firm. I mean, I bump into so many young people who are living on the edge. Nevertheless, they don't sell their souls. You don't see them running all over the place looking for money to be bought or to position themselves to be bought. They are there. And normally countries, that's the hope of countries. I mean, we are not the first country that is going through this. I mean, we have seen countries that have been in worse situations. And human nature being what it is, eventually there are those who stand firm and say enough is enough. It happens. Unfortunately, some take long, others take a shorter time. So those who want this country to be transformed must keep working. General Museveni has undermined this country. I mean, the political class. One, picking people who should never be near the offices that they occupy. That was one of the things he started off with. More or less to make it seem as if anybody can occupy any office, and therefore lowering the standards of leadership, character, making it seem as if it doesn't matter. Even if you are a rogue, even if you are a crook, even if you are a thief, it doesn't matter. You can become a minister, you can become an MP, you can become whatever. So the young people operating within that environment, growing up in that environment, are literally confused. They don't see role models who prosper, because role models who make sacrifices, when they are resilient, it's at the point when they become victorious, which always happens, that there can be a recovery process for those who are losing, saying, oh, what is the benefit of making sacrifices? Nothing comes out of it. The problem they don't seem to understand is that even those who are trying to sell themselves, there are even no buyers because there are too many. So if you get like 1 million youth, and out of those, it is only about 1,000 who are accessing the gravity trade, and the others are simply hanging there by the skin of their teeth or by their fingernails, and if you have a gravity trade, someone who is accessing hundreds of millions of shillings, they are aware of, and you are aspiring to be like them. But you won't be like them because you are simply too many. And you are only there because maybe someone, throws 50,000 to you, or 500,000 to you, 1 million to you, and within a week it is finished. And then you are again seeking another one to get that kind of money from. Rather than to say, let's create an environment where I can make my own money. I don't have to go begging anybody. They seem not to understand that yet. But two ways, in one way or the other, they will get to understand. Either through communications, because when you communicate, there are times when certain messages resonate with people and it makes them become bold and they change direction from where they were going to the correct direction. That's one. When they don't do that, eventually a crisis, because the direction of the politics and the economics of the country that we are pursuing is unsustainable, which means there's going to be a point of crisis. Now, when there's a crises normally wake up people. That's why even wars wake up people. That's why you find a number of times countries which come out of wars tend to have discipline and focus in rebuilding their countries. Unfortunately, in some countries that never happens. So one way or the other, we will reach that point. We can either do it the easy way, conscious, deliberate, or wait to be forced by conditions to simply do what needs to be done. In the choices of those people who are, all of us who are here, 45 million people, I think, of whom about 18 million of us are adults, voting adults. So this business of crying and complaining, and it doesn't help. People must make choices. That's what life is all about. Life is about choices. You make the wrong choice, there are consequences. You reap the fruits of the wrong choices you have made. You make the right choices, you will benefit from or get sweet fruits from the choices that you've made because they are right. Now, unfortunately, some fruits take a bit of time. You plant a tree and it takes 2 years, 3 years. Some people don't want to wait. You will wait. There are no easy ways out of this. You will wait.
I'd love to ask you about the Kawempe by-elections. What's your take on what happened there?
A mess. I mean, the other things that come is fresh in our minds, but literally all by-elections that we've had, a row of them in the last several years, in the same, you know, coercion, electoral malpractices, vote buying, the use of the military and intelligence and police services to suppress people. The good thing is that Kawempe, in spite of all the regime threw at Nup and Honorable Narkora, they won. The worst aspect of it, some people became wounded, others, really got so messed up, ending up in hospitals, journalists, which we condemn. But the good lesson is that, and that's what people need to keep looking at. People who simply give up and say this is an impossible situation. How can there be an impossible situation on this planet under the sun? As long as we are human beings with the human spirit that was created within us, how can there be anything impossible? So the fact that out of 190,000 voters, on about 30-something thousand voted, but there were 17,000 who were resilient and simply defied all odds, all manner of negative actions of the security service that were thrown at them. They stood firm, and Narkora now is in parliament. What does that mean? Escalated to a level of the national level, where there are 18 million voters. So if you get about 12 million voters who are firm and they say enough is enough, situation will change. Situation will change. But people are their own impediments. They stand in their own way, and when they don't achieve what they should achieve, then they complain from morning until evening, from morning until evening. Who is going to change this situation? Nobody is going to fall from Mars or Jupiter or Venus or from America or China or Russia or Egypt or wherever else. It is us here. So the earlier we make those decisions and say enough is enough, the better.
So how prepared is Alliance for National Transformation for the upcoming elections in February next year? And how long did it take you to prepare for elections?
We are working on a roadmap, which I believe we'll be able to disseminate amongst our leaders and supporters within the course of April, which is starting, I suspect, tomorrow. And then it will guide us on keeping, building. And also believing that the situation is not going to remain static, that down the road, this is just a personal belief, that there are certain dynamics that will emerge that will be in favor of those who want change. So as long as you remain focused, disciplined, and resilient, I wouldn't be worried by people who look around and seem to think that, oh, nothing much is happening. No, a number of things are happening. Dynamics are building. So we'll have to keep on building, organizing to take advantage of that opportunity when it unfolds.
There's a question about Alliance for National Transformation being connected to the elites and to the born-again Christians by locally. Is this true, and how does this impact the party if it's true?
The elite.
Yes, the elite.
I get a sense that people associate us in that way because of the nature of the message. Because normally people are used to exciting sloganeering, which happens. It's not only in Uganda, across the globe. Populist messages, they are easier to craft. They resonate with the emotions of people. They can easily whip up people and they can follow you. Now, I think they accuse us of being elite or having an elite base because we are trying to synthesize things and say, yes, there is a bad situation. We need to get rid of it. But you must also be aware that we have got a transformation effort that we must apply immediately for us to be able to build this country on a firm foundation, on the base of which the population, the citizens, the 45 million, who are going to keep on expanding in another 25 years, they're going to become 100 million. That there must be a country which is able to cater for their, their needs, to deliver services, to show that there's good health, to show that there are good high standards of education, that there is the accessible education, that there are jobs, that there are economic conditions that enable people to prosper in wherever they are, whether they are in farming, whether they are in manufacturing, whether they are in service industries. Now, these, and for you to be able to achieve that, you must have value-driven leaders. And I think that's where we get a bit of a problem. Because when we talk about value-driven leaders, I think that's where people talk about us being linked to the Christians. Value-driven leaders don't have to be Christian. I mean, there are Muslims who occupy offices, for example, who will not touch a shilling because they care about the country, they care about the people, and a number of them, the manner in which they've been brought up at family level and also within their religious institution. So integrity is a value. It is within all human beings, regardless of religious denomination. I mean, they are born again who say they are born again, but who, if you take them close to the till of a bank or you take them near where an organization keeps money, they steal. There are many who are stealing money from those who are supposed to be their sheep because they are shepherds. I mean, you can see even in some of the churches of the believers, they are rotten to the core. So, to us, what drives us is values. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what ethnic group. It doesn't matter what religious group. Are you value-driven? Do you walk the talk? Period. That's what matters. How does it matter if you get someone who calls himself a believer and the moment they are like in the ministry, they steal? How does that help? So people are not able to synthesize these things.
But what's interesting is that in the last census, approximately 8 out of 10 Ugandans identified as Christian. So these Christian values, the main one, so to say, is the teaching of love for God and love for thy neighbor. And yet we are in such a broken state. So what is going on? Why are our systems not working in almost all spheres?
There are two issues here that we need to really have a clear understanding of. Believers, those who believe, for example, on the side of the Christians who believe in Christ, there's the aspect of going to heaven. So there are those who believe in Christ because they are preparing themselves while on earth to go to heaven. And at the same time, they can also subscribe to values. But there are also many people who are not Christians, but who are value-driven. Who, when it comes, for example, to utilization of national resources, they are spot on in terms of integrity, in terms of transparency. Look at Japan. Japan, I don't know whether it is even 10% Christian or even 5% Christian. I think Japan, they are either Buddhists or Confucians. Look at China. China, if they are not Christian, they are, I think, Confucians, or they also have a number of those beliefs. Now, they have a way of their own beliefs at a spiritual level. But when it comes to issues of national development, you find that they really dedicate their focus on how to develop their countries, how people can access services, how they can have good health, how they can have good education, how they can prosper. Those who are in business, whatever businesses they are doing. So there's a bit of a problem. I mean, here in Uganda, if Christianity, the third Christianity was the issue, then we would be in the skies. But see, there's the issue of the title that you put on yourself and the practices. If you say you are a Christian, but you don't talk the talk, it doesn't matter. You can call you can call yourself a Christian 1,000,000 times, but it won't change what you are doing if you are stealing money, for example. So people would have to be able to decipher all that and not allow themselves to be confused. That's why in the party we will keep focused on value-driven leaders, regardless of whatever denomination they come from, regardless of what ethnic group they come from. Once you have a core of people who walk the talk, if it comes to transparent use of national resources, that's what they do. If you talk about justice, they are just. If you talk about even-handedness, they are even-handed in whatever public role they are playing. If you talk about fairness, they are fair. That's what makes societies prosper. Character, values. That's what we'll keep pushing. Some people may not understand us in the short term. But when it comes to practice, at whatever point you're able to take power, then it will be easier for them to start interpreting what we stand for. Because they will see people from different ethnic backgrounds, people from different religious groups, but normally whom we would be focusing on because of their character, all working together and transforming a country. That's when it will become clear to people. Many people don't apply their minds to doing analysis. That's the most unfortunate thing. You just hear someone on social media who, because anybody now can say anything on social media, and they follow that. They don't investigate, they don't. So our comfort is that there is a time when we are going to be in government. That one we are sure, as we are sure that day follows night. And then we put this philosophy of value-driven leaders into practice. And then that's when many people's eyes will be opened. Because most people don't even think that it is possible. That it is possible to run an honest government. I bump into many people who say, Muntu, those things you are talking about can't happen here. So what do you do to a person like that? You don't argue. You keep doing what you have to do, because there's going to be a time when that person will see it happen. Then they will believe. And many people who are Thomases, there's a story in the Bible about Thomas, who could not believe unless he touched the scars of Christ. There are many Thomases out there. So that's part of life.
So my network has jumped and I am bumped off from X. So maybe you can keep your microphone on for the time being.
Yep.
So what is your message to Ugandans, be it Christians or any other denomination? How do you want them to support Alliance for National Transformation in the next period?
They should understand us as honest men and women who have an understanding and a belief and a desire to transform this country, to ensure that we bring together all honest men and women who are ready to offer service to their country to ensure that the citizens of this country can have good service delivery, that there can be fairness, that there can be transparency, that there can be openness in the manner in which public affairs are conducted, that they can have equal opportunities, that it is possible that the countries which have that, the people who are there are no different from us, that we can do that. And therefore that we gravitate towards each other, we organize ourselves until we achieve that. There is no other way. Even when this regime changes, and it will change, if the culture of political management does not change, same thing will happen. I mean, you can imagine like the people whom I meet, whom I tell that this can be done, that you can have transparency in managing national resources. And someone says, Muntu, you are dreaming, that can't happen. Now, if that person is in a position of responsibility, do you think that person is going to manage that position well? Because in his psyche, he believes that it will be a waste of time for him not to take advantage of that opportunity and loot. You know? And unfortunately, that's what's happening in the country. You see many people like now who are running on NRM ticket. Because they have given up. They think this thing can't change. I'd rather be in there. So you ask them, say, but do you believe in what you are joining? Say, no, but that's the one I can go through. That's the nature of our people. So we are the ones who must liberate them. And liberate them by God's grace, we will. That will happen as day follows night. That's the nature of human beings. There are many people who just simply, yes.
I have a couple of questions from our listeners on X. Eddie asked that parties are easily compromised, in his opinion. Will it be possible that parties work together on forming a coalition to see this government out in 2026? What do you think?
It is not parties which are compromised. It is the people in the parties who are compromised. Because even if those people were not in parties, even if they were independents and they are compromised, same result will happen. So again, we have to concentrate in ensuring that the men and women who go into parties, the core of them, are uncompromisable. That's the only way you can make significant forward movement. But the many people who could do that are standing on the sidelines, hoping that something good is going to happen. That's another problem I cannot understand. Because there are many men and women. I mean, look at the success of all these corporate bodies, making multi-billion dollars in profit. The MTNs, the Airtels, the banks, the insurance companies, they are those which are well run, which are well managed. And you find men and women who really follow systems, who operate within those institutions. They're able to make profits for those institutions. The same system, same institution, same culture can be built within governance, political governance. Because those who are in all those companies are run by Ugandans, 95%. Just a few, maybe a CEO, a CFO, are the ones you find come from outside. So if the Ugandans who run those companies can run them efficiently, why can't we run the politics that way?
I have a question from Ofong, Uche Ofong. Do you believe democracy is ideal for Africa, considering African politicians make policies that mostly benefit themselves? For example, tax-free allowances and extravagant perks. They
Come again? I didn't hear the first part. Hello. Anyway, it seems if I got the question right, it seems the caller was asking whether.
Of a network, I think she's coming back, but you can go on
What was the question?
Do you believe democracy is ideal for Africa, considering African politicians make policies that mostly benefit themselves? For example, tax-free allowances and extravagant perks, and they rarely sacrifice for the good of the nation. Is democracy ideal for Africa?
It can only be ideal to the extent to which that particular society in which democratic practices are supposed to be applied has got democrats. Nobody can give you what they don't have. If people talk about democracy when actually they are not democrats, they're going to give you what they have. Manipulation, like, Museveni calls himself a democrat, and many others on this continent. So you cannot have democracy without democrats, basically. So anybody who wants to have a well-functioning democracy in our countries must concentrate on building democrats.
There is a follow-up question.
Not just talk about it, because that's what we do since independence. I don't know any politician who has never talked about justice.
So Ucheo Fong, again, he observed that...
Why don't we have them? Why don't we have justice? What you see happening is what we believe. It is not what we say, because there is conflict between what we say and what we do. So when you see in any African country, what we do is who we are. So if you want change of that environment, then build people. Not build because there are those who are already there. Let them come from wherever they are and go into politics, influence it, to be what they are. If they are Democrats, to ensure that they become a critical number to influence politics in that direction. If they are honest men and women, to ensure that there is transparent management of national resources. But they cannot sit wherever they are and keep hoping and hoping and hoping that things are going to be democratic, things are going to be transparent in, for example, managing national resources, that things are going to be fair and there's going to be justice. When the very people who are at the core of the management of all those things are different in their belief systems from what they say. That's what the problem is.
So is it worthwhile adopting another political system? Because according to Ucheo Fong, the current system have enabled divide and rule as a means to kleptocracy and facilitating corruption more than fighting it. Is there another system of governance?
To me, the first point of departure from the mess we are in is to have men and women who care about the country, who care about people. Once you have that, first and foremost, the rest evolves out of that. Because people who care about the country, who care about people, are not selfish, are not driven by selfish interests. They will take the country above self. What does that mean? It means that as long as there's something that benefits the country, they will be able to engage in a participatory way of how to evolve governance that benefits the country, that benefits the people. So you evolve a system. You don't try to fit in one, which we keep trying to do. And then you have all these wolves who shout democracy, justice, and all human rights, and all nature of things. when they are so far removed from being that in their belief systems. And that's why many who, when they are in power, the real them comes out. And then people become desperate. But what do they expect? Everybody gives you what they have. Not what they say they have, because I can tell you I have 1 million shillings here in my pocket when I don't have it. Now, if you say, give it to me, you'll find that I don't have it. If I have it, I'll give it to you. We have a problem. We are the ones standing in our own way. We are almost incapable of doing analysis. We are almost incapable of applying what we know is right that needs to be done. Because many times it seems we want to survive, and all nature of impediments that stand in our way, and we resort to crying morning, midday, evening, the following day, 1 week, 1 month, 60 years. And we are rotating, in a vicious cycle.
Since independence. Emma Okwi wants to know, are you standing for presidency in 2026?
We are right now building the infrastructure of the party, because even if I am fielded by the party, being fielded alone is not enough. I keep telling colleagues, normally people who say they want to go State House. How will you go State House unless you have got the organizational infrastructure that propels you through all the impediments that are deliberately put in our way? You must concentrate in ensuring that, okay, once you have that flag, that you have got a high chance of reaching that State House. And unfortunately, when you say something, again, the nature of our people, they focus more on that than focusing on the things which are necessary to be done. And then the leadership comes after that. So the problem, again, I see that we have, we keep putting the cart before the horse. The cart can't pull the horse. It is the horse which pulls the cart. Pull the cart, and then bring the horse and harness it once the cart is ready. And then you'll go to your destination with the load that you have put on the cart.
Is there a possibility of the opposition rallying behind one candidate in 2026? Again, the question by Emma Okwi.
So, require it so, I would see no reason why we would not have one candidate. Best case scenario. But even if we don't get that best case scenario, we still need to work together. Because even if you don't have one candidate, there are many things you can work together on. We have got 35,000 polling stations. You must have the necessary infrastructure to field polling agents. You must have the infrastructure to move information that you need on that polling day. Wherever your headquarters, wherever you have established your tallying centers and your headquarters. All that needs a lot of coordination. It requires logistic support. It requires a lot of organization. You can also do things down there with hundreds of thousands of candidates at LC3, at LC5, members of parliament. You can coordinate effort and see how do you strategize. There are so many things involved. Many people keep looking at one candidate as the magic. And to me, I have always seen that anyway, even when we don't agree to have one candidate, the population always goes behind one anyway. 2006, 2011, 2016, we didn't have one candidate. But the people wanted change right around Dr. Chizabesi. 2021, we were 11. People wanted change right around Honorable Chagulanyi. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, there was like one candidate. you know. But there are certain
Speaking
things that
of,
we don't apply our minds to. We don't apply our minds to. Because you can go, even you can actually go into an election. For example, you can at times find that there are people who can vote for one candidate and not the other. You must do analysis. You must do survey and find out what percentage is that. If 30% who can vote A will not vote B if A gets out, you have to do analysis and find out how do we deal with that? Or how do we communicate to them to shift them from being 30 to at least 10%? Two, if you don't get one candidate and you have two or three, how do they collaborate effort? As if they are not competing against each other, but are competing against the regime. For example, to deny the regime candidate 50%. And then at that point, rally behind whoever will be the front runner. I am not saying we should do any of this or that. I'm saying we should remain open-minded and sober, not emotional, because our politics is full of emotion and it impedes us. So if we're able to sit and say, what is the most important thing? Taking power and how to manage it. How do we do it? And are open-minded and are able to discuss anything under the sun without being emotional about it, with discipline and focus, I don't see how we cannot collaborate effectively. But it takes two to tango.
I have a question here from Henry Ayebare. Do you think we adopted a liberalized economy at a wrong stage of development? How best can we separate public service and private initiative?
Again, the political leadership. There are many times we just swallow whatever comes, whatever is hanging there, whatever is the trend, we just, And until we get leaders who focus first and foremost on the country, any direction will take us wherever we think or where we are told it will take us. That's where the problem is. And that happens because many people in politics, not because of the country or because of the citizens, many people in politics because of self-benefit, money, That has to be transformed. Before it is transformed, you can speak until the cows come home. You experience the same thing under different people, different circumstances, but same practices will continue, unfortunately.
So we are coming closer to the end. Just one or two questions more. There is Brian Muzima Bula. He's asking, what do you think about the elections in Uganda without constitutional amendments? And then there is a follow-up question. If they are not fair elections, why do you and your party keep participating? And he says that he is proud of you for being honest when talking about the issues affecting our motherland. So I'm leaving this question for the end.
Thank you for your appreciation. Let me start with the last question. I advise some of the colleagues in the other parties, each party will have to make up its own mind, its own decision. The only time when a party should boycott an election, in spite of the unleveled ground in which it would participate if it went into that election, is when it is in a position to paralyze the country in the event that you boycott. If you do analysis and you find that by boycotting, you are not going to cause impact on the political terrain, you had better participate. Because if you don't, you can easily become history. because we don't even have people who are in parties out of convictions. Many people are in parties out of emotions. Many of them. Emotional associations. We have not yet fully built parties which are robust, which are well organized, where their leaders will hold together. Two, if you're a party and you think that you don't have yet organizational discipline within the party, to the point where you determine a boycott and you go into it 100%. If you don't have that organizational discipline, don't. Because you end up splitting. You will say, we are boycotting. 30% will boycott, 70% who are in the party who want to go into positions, they will go. Now you have a bigger problem. Three, a struggle is a continuous process. There are those who participate in elections because of a particular electoral cycle. There are those of us who are building long term because we want to build a robust organization that the moment it takes power, it transforms this country. So when you participate in an election, even when all odds are against you, one thing, you communicate your message. Words are like seeds. Words are like seeds. If they are good words, if they can resonate with people, you keep on attracting more and more. Means you're planting. And there's going to be a time when you will reap the fruits of what you are planting. So those of us who look at these things on a long-term basis. And
General,
basically,
I think we could close at this stage because I know you have to dash off. Thank you for planting these seeds tonight. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to our next discussion.
thanks a lot, Nada, for hosting me. Thank you to all our colleagues, the people who have spent their time to participate in this engagement, and those who have been able to ask questions and also make comments. May God bless you all. And best regards.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching, and see you next time soon. Have a good night, everyone.